Late Night in the Midlands. It's been a long time. You've been so
Well,
busy.
well, we've been busy doing one of your auxiliary shows, which has been a real thrill for me.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. You've been awful busy with your own show with Peter Kling and
With Peter Kling, right, right. Absolutely.
yeah. So Peter's going through a little transition right now. So
Actually, I am too. As you know, I gave up my big house. I was terribly underwater with it, so I just had to let the house go. It occurred in 2008 when that collapse came, the real estate collapse. My wife and I had just bought the house, and we bought it in May, and by September, October of that year, we found ourselves $79,000 underwater, and the only resident in a beautiful, brand-new community that had been under development. They had built a total of like 7 homes. And when we went out looking for a house in the early spring of '08, we found this little community. It's like a suburb of a smaller community. It was just outside of Horn Lake, Mississippi, and we got the best house there. We got it for what we thought was a good price, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful home. Beautiful. We have a 1/3 acre, that type of thing. Well, turns out when we bought it, we were the only ones even looking for a house in that price range in the 250s, and we bought the house, and we wound up living there for a year and a half all by ourselves because the collapse came in September, and nobody moved. We didn't have any neighbors for almost 2 years, so it was an interesting but painful experience. And my wife Shirley died in May of 2012, and so I'm sitting in this house all by myself, 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. Originally, a couple of her kids were going to come and stay with us. That's why we got a bigger house. They wanted to move out of Oregon. It was Portland, too rainy, too cold, blah blah blah. Well, they got here, and they went through one summer and said, I can't handle the heat. So they moved back to Portland, and then we had this big house. So anyway, I'm readjusting to a smaller apartment. I really like it. It's a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It's just under 1,200 square feet, and me and the 4 kitty cats, and we're doing just fine, Michael. Just fine.
good. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. And there's a lot of people who've had to just let the house go and start over. It's 2008.
It's not easy, and it's a situation where you look back and you say, should I have done that in the first place? Well, you can't live your life like that, Mike.
That's right. You can't. I don't have regrets. I used to think that way.
I don't either. I don't live by regrets.
Nope. If it happened for a reason. That's the way I see it. So anyhow, Dr. Rand, so when will you and Peter be expected to be back live?
Well, as you know, Peter is relocating back north. And I think it's Maine, if I'm not mistaken.
It is, yeah.
I think it's Maine. So we figure, well, let's see, this is July, August, September. Hopefully the end of September or early October we'll be back on the air. We're going to retool the show. And first of all, I need to thank not only your present audience that we're conversing with tonight, but we have had a great audience. And I get wonderful emails. A couple of them, are a little probing, but that's what makes it fun. That's what gives you a sense of community and the fact that you must be doing something because people are responding to you.
That's right. I mean, I get a
and
lot
your
of...
audiences, they don't pull punches.
No, they don't. They don't pull punches at all.
Okay. Well, we're on the same page with that one, right?
Oh, we certainly are. But yeah, I get a lot of responses, and I save emails. I save listener emails. I figure maybe one day when I'm dead and gone, my kids will go through them, see who hated me and who loved me. But
well, I'm open for a memoir out of you at some point.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I appreciate all the emails I get from everybody, and some you're gonna get your trolls every now and then. It just comes with the business.
Well, they got their purpose too.
Well, I know they do.
How about this in their own minds? Oh, that was mean, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I Listen, you're in the business of communication, correct? Why should you not expect that people will be on both sides of the issue? Because that's reality. And you can't just walk a line to please everybody. It doesn't work that way. But what I try to do is, and I'd like to do that tonight. I'd like to get into some politics tonight. You know, we'll do a little quick thing on what's going on with planet Earth. Just a quick note on that. Things are suspiciously quiet, Michael.
Yeah. So what are we talking about with Earth?
The storms are still there, but they've kind of modified themselves, and the threat of hurricane at this point started out like a bear, you know.
Yeah, well, there was a biggie that was headed for, was it Korea or somewhere over by China?
It was a typhoon.
A typhoon, yes, but same kind of thing, right? Just different.
Yeah, right. Hurricane, typhoon, right.
Yeah. So there's been that, but yeah, it doesn't seem like there's been a lot. And I expected, just like you, I expected more. The last couple of years I have, and it's not happened.
But we just started the season. Well, that's not true. We started the season at the end of May, so we're only a month and a quarter into it. So we'll see what happens. One of the themes that I've been talking about on the air with Peter and our audience is the fact that I've got a date I'd like to mention to you. But before I do that, I'd like you to give me the benefit of your thinking on where this whole metaphysical thing with planetX might be going, because I'm sure you've had contact with other people, and then we'll drift hopefully back into some politics and some other things. I'd like you to give me, if you would, a quick 1 or 2 minute commentary on your perspective, because we have not talked about PX for quite a while.
No, we haven't. And for me, I kind of have a couple ways I go with it, and because there's possibilities, right? So the one is that the Planet 9 that they're apparently searching for, that they think might be there.
Well, they found it. I put my headset up for a second. They found it, Michael. It's not like they're searching for it.
They found it.
My question is, if it's within the boundaries of the known solar system, how could they not have seen it 30 years ago? The Hubble telescope is seeing 1,000 million light years into the future and into the past, and they just now discovered Planet 9? Is this some more of the Hillary Clinton kind of bait and switch? I suppose that wasn't very nice.
Oh no, that's very true though. And well, here's another thing, Dr. Rand. They like to play mind games, because think about it. They demoted Pluto, right? And then they find this one and they call this Planet 9, which in case would have been Planet 10, wouldn't it have? The 10th planet?
I kind of think. Yeah, I kind of think those numbers add up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that could possibly be what all the stink has been about, or there's another scenario, and that is that it came through here a long time ago. People gave. Let me tell you. Seeing that you asked. I have this little theory that I've been cooking up about, and it's nothing new, I don't think, except for maybe a part of it, and that is that our ancestors may have come from Mars, and perhaps biblical scripture and some of these other ancient scriptures that talk about this Planet X coming through could have been text that was on Mars with our ancestors, and when they left Mars to come to Earth, they may have took some of that with them, just like you would take your phone book with you and your map or whatever, right? So they took important documents with them. And so I think and that's what's getting people confused, and they're looking in the wrong places, because I think you got to look at it more as on a Mars perspective. And, maybe that's what happened to Mars. Maybe that's why the asteroid belt's there. So that's, I kind of look at it a little that way. So now where it is now, I don't know.
Well, as you know, I have my own theoretical approach, and I've been talking about it for years. People say, yeah, you have nothing to back up your claims, and well, it's not so much about backing up your claims, Mike. It's about being able to do the research, which we did after 7 years we wrote the book. And I've come to the conclusion, Shirley and I were, she was my chief editor, and God, I miss that, Michael. Anyway, I've come to the firm conclusion that a lot of Sitchin's writings were, in fact, right on the money, okay? The book, The 12th Planet, okay? If you've ever taken the time to read it and read between the lines, I think he had it nailed down almost perfectly except for a few little minor things. And that was, he never brought in the fact that according to the ancients, there were 3 suns associated with this solar system. Now, binary suns in our part of the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, Mikey, is not an unusual thing. In fact, they think that at least 80 to 85% of the star systems which we find in our sector of the Milky Way galaxy are prone to have at least 2 or more suns.
And Dr. Rand, if I may, don't you find it a little strange that they all these other solar systems they're finding, and they're saying, oh, well, we find these stars, and there's and a lot of times they'll say, oh, there's 3 or 4 planets in that star system that could be in the Goldilocks zone. And I'm thinking, right, okay, so they've got all these other solar systems they find where there could be life on 4 planets in our solar system, but ours, it seems like we're missing some suns, we're missing some other planets with life, and I'm wondering, was this a war zone or something over here?
No. Well, I can't say no. I wasn't around then. But I'm going to go back to my original thesis and design for writing the book, and that was this. Probably a rehash of shows we've been doing for like the last 8-9 years, but it's been a while since I've had a chance to talk to your audience, on a one-on-one. I want to repostulate my original theory. Here it is. According to the ancients, and now there are now some astronomers slowly coming around, but it's hard because that's an institution like any other educational institution.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe that there were 3 suns associated with this solar system. Number 1, nobody ever discusses the factor of who or what might be controlling the sun, because the sun controls everything in its sphere of influence, which would be the 8.5 known planets. I'll give. Let's say 9. Let's be fair. I have always liked Pluto. I grew up with Pluto as a kid.
Yeah, so, I think Pluto deserves to still be a planet, personally.
Absolutely. How dare they, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So the 9 known planets and their moons and the myriad number of comets that still are associated that plague the solar system. And then we have the asteroid belt, which is a mystery that has never really been explained, other than it collected all the debris from the forming planets. Somehow that doesn't feel right because we've got a number of gaseous planets.
Well, some tell me that asteroid belt was a planet that got destroyed, too. So.
Yes, it was Marduk.
Yeah.
And it was located between Mars and Jupiter. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the asteroid belt lies. Now, no one's really ever, I don't want to name names of some of these astronomers and people that wind up on the major news. They postulate a theory and everybody goes, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that." I think that somebody someday needs to do a really serious show with some really good so-called quote experts unquote, and let's talk about exactly what the asteroid belt is. Where could it possibly have come from, and why is it so uniform? Most of the billions of rocks are like tiny, minor little asteroids. I mean, some of them are pretty damn big. Okay? Now, it just didn't get there. If it was collected from all different parts of the solar system, how did it get all concentrated between Mars and Jupiter in a perfect alignment, much like any circular ring would look? It's perfectly shaped. It has a dimension, it has a thickness, and it has a width. It's too suspect to have been anything but possibly a planet, or, all right, let's say Marduk was only one huge, 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 monstrous planet-sized rock. Whatever it was, we believe that when this errant object came through ripping through what we call the plane of the ecliptic of the solar system. Let me explain that real quick.
Okay.
You've been to an observatory or planetarium, and when you walk in, most of them have a big mural up when you walk in, and it shows the sun in the center of the solar system, and it shows all the planets in their proper perspective, and their distances, and you see that they all seem to be rotating in a counterclockwise direction. Interestingly, everything in the solar system, our solar system, rotates, as does the sun, in a counterclockwise motion. Now, why is that? I don't think that's something also that's ever been explained, because oddly enough, every star field and every solar system in our galaxy, our home galaxy, which is the Milky Way, it all rotates. The entire galaxy rotates in a counterclockwise motion.
Almost like parts to a watch.
Absolutely. Now, why is that? Well, I have asked my buddies. Here we go. I'm going to go rogue on you here. I'm going to go metaphysical on you, because that's what you and I do best. They tell me that it has to do with the fact that the entire universe, and by the way, I am so gifted. I had written to the National Geographic Society some 20 years ago. They had put out a poster that they designed, which they thought best described what the construct of the universe may look like. Obviously, none of us were there at the beginning, and none of us were there to know when it really began. We believe that our solar system and our sector of the galaxy might be as much as between 9 and 15 billion years old. Now that's a guesstimate, and I'm not taking issue with that. What I'm taking issue with is the fact that the universe is probably a hell of a lot older. If it took 7 billion years for this solar system to coalesce, come together, have everything in perfect symmetry, I often ask this: whose computer system and how big was that machine that was able to design the construction, I said construction, of this particular solar system? It's very suspicious that all the pieces connected with it, and we can talk about that. We can just let this thing roll out tonight. Do you realize how complicated just the structure, forget the function, and forget the incredible distances between each of the planets and all of the moons and everything? We just had I forgot the name of the particular spacecraft, but it just entered into Jupiter's influence. Wasn't it about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Might be.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the name of that particular spacecraft, but it took almost 5 years for it to get there.
Oh yeah, it is
5 years to get to Jupiter. Hello.
I was just gonna say, I think it is around Jupiter now.
Yes.
So yeah,
and it's going to do its thing and take its pictures, and hopefully they're looking to find out the origin of Jupiter, which would be priceless, but more importantly, exactly how Jupiter fits into the scheme of things. You see, because as you look at the design of the solar system, you have to realize that the sun controls and has controlled even the birth of this solar system, much less its day-to-day destiny. And therefore, we go back to the book thing again. You know, what's causing all this craziness with planet Earth in terms of storms and disasters? We've been talking about that. I've been talking about that with you since '07 on the beginning of our relationship on the radio. But the point is, anything in outer space that may affect the sun or its function or how it operates would automatically, it's like dominoes. You set up your dominoes, you know, you've seen that thing where you hit one and they go pop, 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 and on. Anything and everything that affects the sun immediately, in some cases, of course, you know, I realize how long it takes for sunlight to get here, but when I say immediately, I'm talking about within days, sometimes minutes.
And you know, just for the record,
affects the Earth, Mike.
Yeah.
And every other planet between here and the sun, and then past us, all the way out to little baby Pluto. The sun controls our destiny every second of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, century, and millennium. Of course it does. Now, history can easily track all the different problematic periods the Earth has had with strange phenomena and weather aberrations and ice ages and then heat, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Rotation changes. Obviously, it has to do with the sun. No sun. If there's no sun, there's no life on Earth or anywhere else. If there is life out in the rest of the solar system, and I believe that there is, we just aren't sophisticated enough to get there to check it out. Now, back to the sun real quick.
Okay.
If we're right, and the book we wrote, The Return of Planet X, even though my time frame, I will say this, my time frame was a little early. And what I can attribute that to is that the current research that I had available to me at that time directed me to those dates that I gave in the book. Now, they were right around the 2012 period, and that proved to be a whole nother set of dynamics and problems and historical things that happened here on planet Earth, you know, with the Mayan prophecies and all of that. By the way, that's never been really truly explained or totally understood, the link between December 21st and the Mayans and all that. I guess we could probably touch on that later in the show tonight. But back to the sun. If we're right about that, we're not totally through or over with this thing. Just because 2012 is gone, that doesn't mean that we're totally, you know, in the clear and we can come out of the closet on this. Not the case. I'm going to talk about real quick a date of September 18th. It's a Sunday of this year, September 18th. Now, I've been led to believe, and the information that I'm receiving, I believe is factual and it's cohesive, and I will stand by it. If the event doesn't occur exactly on that date, well, I could be a day or two or a week off, but the point is, I'm going to predict that on or about that date, in several locations in the country of Mexico, there's going to be of major landings by ET craft. There's
gonna you cut out just as you said that. There's going to be.
Somebody's trying to call into my line. I didn't have a chance to call everybody and tell them not to call me. I probably get 10 calls a night from people, and can I get a book, or what's going on here, or you know, I heard you on with Peter and blah blah blah. So anyway, I think they've given up already. That's good. Okay. September 18th, Sunday. I think that there's going to be a series openly of UFO landings for all to see that will forever, ever, ever, ever change the mental gymnastics and dynamics and conclusions about whether ETs exist or not. Okay? I think once and for all this nonsense about whether Roswell was real or not, or or what was going on during the 70s and 80s with all of these tactees, and boy, somebody's calling me. They won't give up.
Well,
so
you know what?
I'm going to let them go.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you? We got to take a break here anyway. So
okay, can I take the call real quick?
Yeah, go right ahead. I'm going to put you.
All right, buddy. I'll be right back here.
All right, no problem. All right, so folks, yeah, we're up for a break anyway. So I'll let them deal with the phone ringing there. And
don't forget, you gave me a couple hours to get my notes together. So I definitely want to do that.
Oh, we definitely got time. Sure, go ahead.
I just want to kind of finalize a few of our ideas about this whole planetX controversy, and are all of us crazy, and it's all away on the farm and all of that.
Dr. Rand, hold on. I want to bring you back to the ET's landing, because that's where we kind of left off.
Okay.
So you say that September 18th.
It's a Sunday.
That's a Sunday. That now go on. They're going to land where?
It could be one or more locations. It could be as many as 3 or 4 locations. I think Mexico City will be the #1 location, and then Cuernavaca, Veracruz, maybe somewhere, down in that little finger that comes down off of California, the Baja Peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's what's driving this. Most people don't know, but Mexico City is a very, very old city.
Okay.
It's probably the oldest city in North America. It's been there since ancient times. And there have been many, many cultures that have come and gone from that very city center of continental influence. Continental meaning the North American continent. Now, Mexico City itself is huge. It's one of the largest cities in size of area, square miles, in the world. It's built, unfortunately, upon the floor of what used to be a huge volcanic type lake that sat atop a huge volcano. Actually, Mexico City was built now in what was the old caldera of the volcano. Okay? And it's been sinking very, very slowly because it's built on thousands of feet of sand. And the sand is slowly shifting and settling, and it's dragging the entire city down with it. Now, one of the most important buildings that's being affected is the Guadalupe Cathedral. It's absolutely magnificent. I've had the chance to go there. It's awe-inspiring if you ever get to Mexico City. But it's already lower than the street, and you have to kind of walk down toward it, very gently sloping. It's a very eerie thing, because you're walking down. You can see from a distance. You can see that the building is apparently slowly sinking, and they've had to put a lot of repairs and buttressing of various joints and systems. But anyway, that's the problem that Mexico City has been facing now for 1,000 years. The city has been sinking.
Oh, so it's a slow sink.
I'm sorry?
I say it's a slow sinking then, so far.
Very. But even if you go a half inch a year, after 100 years, that's 100 inches. Okay?
That's
now,
a lot.
Apparently, from what my ET spies and sources tell me, is that the ETs may have found a way to come to the aid of Mexico City itself and stop it from sinking. Some form of alien ET, UT, ultra-terrestrial technology. Now, why help them? Because Mexico, the country of Mexico, and its government and its military and its people have been UFO advocates for dozens and dozens of years in this new UFO era from the late 30s and 40s. Mexico has been very friendly. There are dozens and dozens of shows that take place, all kinds of footage. It's never seen here. It's never reported on. It's a boycott type of thing. We can't discuss that, okay? Mm-hmm. And therefore, I think that the ETUT culture that may be coming to visit us openly wants to show that they are benevolent, not malevolent. You see?
I do.
Now, why the other locations? I think to buttress the perception. Yes, the ships can land safely. They're, it's not going to be, another Tom Cruise War of the Worlds movie, right?
Yeah, well, right. And then, some people are going to think that this is part of that whole fake UFO invasion thing.
Right, where they're going to hologram them in the sky and all that. Yeah. Well, you know what? If you ever see one in real life, and maybe tonight I'll tell you about the experience with my buddy Sergio up on the roof in L.A. in 2004. I had a chance, and I believe I was brought on it, I had a chance to view one for about 7-8 minutes, less than 500 feet hovering over me, right in the northeast central corridor coming out of Los Angeles, real quick. My buddy lived he lived about 6 miles from downtown L.A., and if you've ever seen L.A. skyline at night up close, it's absolutely beautifully, stunningly creative. And they do the buildings in different lights and stuff. Well, we were up there. I was just getting ready to go back to Denver, where I was living at the time, and we did have a glass of wine with us, but that was it. It was one glass of wine. We had a chance to experience a huge wedge-shaped craft. Wedge-shaped, like a point of a big arrow, but a big wide head of an arrow shaped like that, wedge-shaped craft that was 3 stories, or 3 tiers, or 3 decks, or 3 levels. And there was no moon that night, only the stars, which made it even more spectacular, because when this thing suddenly materialized, remember in Star Trek when the Klingon warbirds would suddenly shimmer into view and they've decloaked, Captain. Remember?
Yes, oh yeah.
All right. The best way that I could describe this to you is to refer to that analogy of when the Klingon warbirds would kind of shimmer. They would like shimmer into focus and then stop, and then suddenly there was the warbird to be seen. That is exactly how this craft came into view. My first notice that I was given mentally was Sergio and I, he was sitting on a big air vent, and he had his wine there, and I was standing leaning against another air vent, but this one had the blower, where you blow the air out of an apartment building.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, we both got up with our drink, and we put our drinks down together on the top of this one air vent, and we both came shoulder to shoulder and pivoted together, moving left. Our heads and bodies just kind of left, and as we did, we were in perfect unison. There was something driving us, and when we, the pivot only took like seconds. Just then, we saw this huge, dark gray, but it was still light against the night. You could clearly see the shape. There were hardly any lights on it at the very beginning, maybe 1 or 2 at the tail, and there was one on each end of each arm, the wedge-shaped arms. But it just suddenly shimmered and slid into view like a slithery snake, and it came right over a huge building that was probably 15 stories, and it completely covered up that entire building. There was nothing to be seen but this ship hanging right above us. And I remember looking at it in disbelief. Of course, I knew exactly what it was. It was not a surprise to me because I had had a dream or a communication, whatever you want to call it. In the Bible, every time, and the angel sent a messenger to, okay. I had a dream back in Denver before I came to L.A. that I was going to have an experience with a UFO sighting. It was just a dream, and it was very real, and I had it in the back of my head. And all of a sudden I said to myself, guess what, guys? This one's real. So...
Well, I've seen them too.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I've seen them too, so, you know, it's not crazy talk to me.
But when you get that close, see, I'll try to do this quick, because I want to get to something that I wrote about what we were talking about earlier, and then we can shift focus, if you want, into politics, which I'm roaring to do. Okay, so we're both looking at it, and I remember turning to him, and he turned toward me. He couldn't even speak. His eyes were the size of quarters. And it was like, ugh, 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 ugh. And I remember looking at him, and with my hand, I was pointing toward it. I wasn't speaking either. And then he shakes his head, yeah, of course I see it. And then, very slowly, this huge, hulking thing hanging in space above us slowly rotated toward us on its side, revealing 3 distinct decks. You could see the entire construction of the ship. It looked like a big type of stealth fighter. You know the kind of the arrowhead shape the stealth fighters have?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like a B-2?
Oh, yeah.
Only this was blocks and blocks long. But that's what it looked like. A great, big, grown-up B-2 stealth fighter. Okay? And then all the lights came on. And it was like, whoa! I mean, there were lights on the decks, and there were lights on the rims, and there were lights on the nose, and there were lights on the tail. And as it was rolling, these lights went on. So we got to see everything in total, clear perspective. That was no accident. That sighting was specifically set up for me to absorb and remember, and the last part of it is, I believe we were on board for at least 20 minutes, although neither one of us, this is very strange, we both have fleeting little bits and pieces, and when he and I talk about it, we don't talk about it with anybody else. In fact, I hope he doesn't mind that I'm on the air tonight, but my buddy Sergio, he's pretty open-minded about stuff like this. And what I pieced together from the bits and pieces, we're both in agreement on when we first saw it and how it ended and it going away and disappearing over the mountains, blah, 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 blah. But the bits and pieces apparently were that I was being, I have a small crystal implant, that my implant was either being tuned or cleaned or updated or something, and he received an implant to become a receiver.
I see.
That's how these things, and it can happen in 5 minutes or 20 minutes. And another thing, 20 minutes to us, even though I did a watch thing, so I was really, really lucky that I just 30 seconds before the experience began, something in my mind said to me, check the time. Just as clear as that, Michael, check the time. And I've learned over time, because I believe I know myself, when that little voice says, don't step out on that street, this car could hit you, you don't step out on the street, okay? Or if the voice says, you better listen, this could be important, you better shut your mouth and open your ears and listen. So I looked at my watch, and it was 10:25 exactly. And I've got that same watch I've had, same watch, Mikey, when I landed in Korea in the January of '64 during my 3 years in the Army, and somebody stole my watch on the troop ship going over during one of the storms. And I didn't have a watch. I went to the PX, and I bought this little $19 Seiko. I still have it on my hand today. And that's the watch that I looked at when the little voice says, now mark the time. And as soon as the experience ended, I don't know whether my instinct took over, or I don't know if the voice came back and I was still coming down from the experience. It said, mark the time. This time it said, mark the time. And I did. and it appeared to be 20 minutes later. That's how I get, and I think it was a 20-minute experience. Now, that's Earthian time. They can manipulate time, by the way, and make us think that it's only 20 minutes, even though it is 20 minutes, but it may appear longer and can be stretched. Anyway, we think that during that, I wouldn't say full 20 minutes, I would say probably about from what I can remember, about 18 minutes of that time span is totally unaccounted for, and each of us have brief, tiny little like flashes. Have you ever you know how they you know how motion pictures appear when the film flashes over the light? Imagine if you were flipping a deck of cards. You follow me? Like, and you see the light and you see the images on the cards coming up.
Right.
That's the kind of memories we have of that event. And sometimes you have to kind of, as they're coming, see, they're always there in my mind, but I can't always grab them and focus on them.
That's kind of creepy.
Everybody understands how complicated it can be having a contactee experience, because everything isn't explained A to Z, 3 to 5, 5 and 5 make 10.
Well, Dr. Wren, that's kind of creepy. I mean, I can imagine. My imagination will run wild with these things, and I can imagine that type of memory being in your head, where it's like cards. Like you used to buy the cards as a kid, where you'd flip through them like that, and it would make like the guy would run or something.
It's like an old time film.
Yeah, exactly.
Black and white film. When they run it, the images go just like that. Every once in a while, when I feel this. And I can't describe the thing to you, I still get the beeping in my ears. Have you ever had the... Okay, let me explain that one. Gosh. I suppose everybody says, go get the white coat, quick, he's coming apart. Okay. Remember the old beepers that used to be on your belt clip? When somebody needed to contact you, it would go beep, 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 beep.
Yep, I never had one, but I seen them.
All right. It's that similar type of sound, but it's unique in its pitch and its character, but it's the rhythm and that's the sound. It's like a beeper going off. Sometimes I'll get them, mostly I get them in my right ear. Sometimes I get them in my left ear. If they ever come together at the same time, boy, I better stop exactly what I'm doing. If I'm on the highway, I better pull over, or if I'm on the phone, I better get off. If I'm in the middle of a shower, I better turn the water off, because there's something coming inbound. And when these messages come in, it's only for a fraction of a couple of seconds. It'll be a message like, stay focused, think deeper. A message like that. Stay focused and think deeper. Then I have to figure out exactly what they're referring to. And it's usually about something that I've been contemplating, or like right now I'm writing my memoir. Oh, by the way, I started writing my memoir. Oh. And it is really bizarre. I'd like to read a page of it tonight for everybody, just so they get a feeling. Yeah, I finally decided. You know my title is?
What's that?
Sit on It.
Sit on It.
Now, here's the book cover. I used to work for the government in Ridgecrest, California. I had a top secret clearance. I was part of a unique team of scientists. I was a technical writer. I'm not a scientist then. I was a technical writer, and I worked for Comarco, which was an acronym, and it was a consortium of 9 generals who put up their own money to figure out why our cruise missile couldn't hit its target for the first 4 years of the cruise missile deployment. I couldn't have said that 15 years ago. I would have been put in prison. Okay? No, seriously.
Oh, I know.
I had to sign a 10.5, 12-year non-disclosure statement. Okay? For the first 4 years that we deployed the cruise missile, almost 90% of the time the missile never reached its intended target, because what was happening was the cruise missile is guided by a couple of camera systems that are in its nose, and it's like any other rocket. It has a nose and it has fins and all this stuff. But these cameras have to look through some kind of an opaque surface. So what looks to be plastic, which a camera can see through clear plastic or glass, this is a surface that's made up of hundreds and hundreds of layers of thin mylar material. And the mylar, when it builds up to a certain thickness, becomes a heat shield. And the problem was that they miscalculated how thick this heat shield, this mylar heat shield, had to be applied to the nose tip of the missile, which was the cruise missile, so that it wouldn't heat up and cause the plastic to go opaque. It's not that the cameras wouldn't work. When the nose cone heated up, it's like any kind of plastic, it became opaque. And of course the camera was blinded. So the missile just continued on its course or until it ran out of fuel. Okay? So I was part of the team that helped unlock the secret, and that was the secret, that the mylar nose cone. It took $80 million and 5 years, and we did it. It took $80 million of research report. I must have transcribed 1 million chemical and engineering symbols on these formulas that we were developing. Anyway, the point of this whole thing was that we worked for the Navy. They were our bosses, and the Pentagon was on the other side. So we had two generals at the China Lake Naval Weapons Testing Center. By the way, this Ridgecrest is the town that serves the Naval Weapons Testing Center, where almost every major weapons test is conducted, not only for us, but for most countries in the world. See, there's a lot people don't know. We test other people's weapons for them, which means we pretty much know what they got. Now, isn't that a clever idea?
It is clever.
Isn't that, in other words, we perform a function, we get paid for it, but now we know what everybody's got pretty much. Now, the only ones that didn't use us were the Chinese and the Russians. But everybody else did.
Well, okay. They were smart.
Right. And I got to talk to some of the key people over there at the Navy about UFOs and ETs, and I'm telling you, most of them believe it. They believe something's going on because they've had sightings right there in Ridgecrest. I digress only to tie this into the fact that what I think is happening with the potential landing of these ET craft is that it's time that the charade be ended. And I think could be a great place to segue in, but I wanted to read that little thing I wrote about our solar system. I wanted to finish that off.
Then go ahead.
Coming back to focus. Every single thing, Michael, that's going on today, politically, globally, internationally, in terms of terrorism, the disorder in the country, this terrible black-white divide, all of this has to play its way out. It's gone too far. In order to stop it or correct it, you have to have a major shift in the entire consciousness of the planet. And I think that's what September 18th might be all about.
Well, I hope it works. Now, Tommy in the chat, he asked a little while ago, he sent me a question. He says, ask guests many races of ETs who he thinks they are. So I guess, who would you think these ETs are who are coming?
This batch that might be communicating with us? Well, that's a great question. Thank you very much. Is it Tommy?
Yes, sir.
Tommy, thank you. Very, very insightful question. There are at least 87 known alien type of species of humanoids. Humanoids. There are some reports of some reptilian species. Do not assume that we are alone. We most certainly are not alone. And the kind of overriding ring that we get back from them in terms of their intelligence sounding about us, they say, you got to be crazy to go there. You got to be stone out of your mind. If you just fly by, they shoot at you. If you try to land and talk to somebody, they try to kill you, just like they do in the science fiction movies. So, understand that if this event happens like I'm thinking it might happen, it might not happen on the 18th. It's going to happen. It will happen, I think, before the election. And that's what's going to cast. That's a good place to segue in, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what, if it does happen, Dr. Rand, I would count up all the pennies I had to get in a vehicle and get my butt over there. I would definitely want to see that with my own eyes.
I have a thought about that, not necessarily personally about you going. Whomever will be witnessing that event, I'm not even sure that I will make that attempt. I'll know if I'm asked, then I'll go. Now, why? Simply because I got a whole bunch of other things I'm working on, and off the air I'll tell you, my brother and I have just, we think we've come up and developed a product that could add the police in identifying if someone is carrying concealed or not.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm going to say about it, the type of technology. If we're right, we may be lucky enough to save hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of lives, including policemen. You see?
Black Lives Matter is not going to like you.
Oh, I don't know. I guess we could almost swing into that. But you know what? I want to take a second.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd rather not. I
definitely have some things that I want to discuss about what's going on because
okay.
Your audience will, I think, appreciate what I would like to say, but I'd like them to think about what I'm going to say about what I think is coming up. Okay?
All right.
Now, I was beginning to explain what my cover was looking like, and I got into this whole thing about Comarco. One of the people that I became dear, dear, dear friends with, her name was Alice Whipple, and Alice was like 60 years old, but she was as spry as anybody was at 40. She had a mind that wouldn't quit, and she was a UFO expert. She had seen one as a small child, and she knew more about UFOs than anybody I had ever met. And she had this poster in her. She was a graphic artist designer for the Weapons Center because we had to put out manuals every month, and see we also served as a cover agency for training people, which we did, but what we were really doing was secret work on the cruise missile. And we had, the rooms you had to go in and out, and, you had to do your palm print and all that stuff because it was top secret stuff. Anyway, Alice had this poster, and I fell in love with the poster, and here's what the poster is. It's kind of a turquoise color background. Have you ever seen a finger cactus in the desert? It's got like arms sticking up, a little elbow. Have you ever seen it? And it's full of spiky thistles.
I've seen pictures, but I've never actually been in the desert.
All right. Well, this is one that sits out all by itself out in the desert, and it's beautiful. It's got like a main trunk and then 3 or 4 arms, and at the very top, it looks like a hand. You follow me?
Yeah. Okay.
And Michael, hold up your hand. Take your right hand or left hand, whatever you are. Hold it up in front of you. Now, pull your thumb in. Pull your ring finger, your index finger and ring finger and little finger in just a little bit. And then you have that big finger sticking up there, don't you?
Yeah.
We don't have to talk beyond that. You got the point?
Yeah, I think I get it.
And it was a cactus. And it said above it, sit on it. And I fell in love with it because I think that's just the way life is. Life is one big pointed finger cactus, and if you don't like it, you can just sit on it.
Yeah.
So that's the title of my memoir, and that's going to be the cover for my book. Okay.
All right, great. Dr. Rand, we've got one last break that we're going to take here. When we come back,
All right.
we'll have we'll have less than an hour to go. But
all right. Well, I got a page and a half to read. I think it will completely lock down everything that we've been talking about since the beginning when we came on about the solar system. It's very enlightening, and I want to share it with everybody.
All right, great. So we'll do that as soon as we get back from this break. So, folks, Dr. Jason Rand is my guest. You're welcome to call in. Numbers are on the website if you're interested. You can call in and post a question, or you can even ask me a question, private chat in the chat room privately, because if you post it in regular chat, then I'm not going to chase it as people are talking. So that's why I say private message. But call-ins is the best way to get your message across. I've still got a couple good questions for Dr. Rand as well. And, well, we'll get back to it just as soon as we get back from this break. So you have something you want to read, so I don't want to take that time from you. So I want you to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, yes, before I do, I got a little bit of an echo, by the way.
Oh, okay. I'm not hearing it.
I want to say how much I appreciate your production and your bumper music and everything that I know that Ira does for the network, because you hear some of these shows, the music is it's all right.
Just for the record, I produce my own show.
Oh, well then give you the
Well, I like to clear that up because I've been thinking lately about a producer, but if I had a producer, they wouldn't be picking my bumper music for me. So.
Well, your bumper music is absolutely great. And one quick 1 minute anecdote. I had the pleasure back in the early '60s. I was an upcoming budding rock and roll artist. And I was part of an opening act for the Four Seasons who did that very song tonight. And boy, did it bring back goosebumps.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? You're right.
You don't forget stuff. You don't forget stuff like that.
You don't. But you're right in giving Ira credit for what him and Jolene do for this network. He does. I mean, all the in between the shows, he sets that stuff up. He gets the schedule set up with the different shows, and sometimes when need be, he does produce those shows. So, well, he's a hell of a guy, and I'm real lucky to have him.
Besides the content being supreme, the production is also supreme. All right, I had to say that. And then that memory came back about the Four Seasons, and I said, "Oh hell, I'll tell them about it." See, I used to be a record producer. You know that, right?
I do.
And I've met lots and lots and lots of famous people in the music industry. And I'll tell you something, like everything else of an educational and or entertainment type of legacy, you're accountable for what you do. You make a movie, you make a record, you sing a rap song, whatever. You got to understand that whatever you throw out there inevitably comes back. It's the law of the jungle, and it's the law of the universe, and the yin and yang of life, and the karma and the dharma of things. Okay, I got all that off my chest. All right. Mm-hmm. I do digress, don't I?
Oh, you do. You do it better than anybody I know.
I'm sharing with your audience who I am and what I think about. So, based on that, I'm going to read an excerpt. It's probably a page and a half. I'm a pretty good reader, and I can read pretty fast. If you guys will just stick with me. I've opened up the book, and I'm part of it starts on page 1, and then it goes to page 2. But right off the bat, I challenge the reader. And what leads me into it was I was describing about my experience on the lake up in Canada. And I open up that segment, opens up the top of the prose in the book, and it works on down to talking about UFOs and ETs. So I'm just going to jump in now, okay? Right. Quoting, the late Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a world-renowned astronomer, researcher, UFO/ET/UT expert, and a prolific author, would eventually write an important series of widely acclaimed books on UFOs, identifying and labeling them, some 25 years later, as any or all extraterrestrial, which are termed ET, and ultra-terrestrial, UT, scenarios, having this arcane nature as being part of their reality. He chose to call them because I had a close encounter of the fourth kind. I was in the presence, physically, in an extraterrestrial. In this case, it was an ultra-terrestrial, but I'll explain that, okay?
Okay.
So, I'm going to quote again. Then in the 70s and 80s, prolific writer, director, filmmaker Steven Spielberg would create several beloved motion pictures on this genre, with E.T. the Extraterrestrial and Close Encounters, then Super 8, and of course War of the Worlds, and then, of course, Close Encounters. Okay. These were among his most legendary Universal pictures. Yet as strange as this bizarre tale may sound to you, consider for a moment several rather incredible vistas of the known universe and how these heavenly aspects may impact our ongoing concept of the ET-UT paradigm at every level of our reality and our life on Earth as we presently experience it here in the 21st century. That's a heavy statement. Continuing, there's a rare date coming up in 2016 that might forever change the reality of what we understand or think we know about UFOs and ETs. Our investigative projection involves the potential physical landing of these elusive, quote, ships of light, unquote, in several Mexican locations. We spoke about that earlier, Michael.
Yes.
Right? Now, back to the text, quoting, modern-day astronomers confidently estimate there are 1 trillion stars in our galaxy, the Milky Way, a stupendous spiral collection of counterclockwise rotating stars. And in this, it hosts our solar system. Now, these wonders are seen as a luminous band stretching across the nighttime sky. If you've ever been out in the desert, Michael, look up. It's absolutely breathtaking what you see without lights.
Yeah, and for the record, we've got a call too, Dr. Rand.
All right, I tell you what, I'll kind of wrap this up.
Oh well, go ahead and do what you got to do. I just want to let you know we'll take the call.
Well,
after.
tell him that we're looking forward to the call, and I'll get to him just a second. Quoting, this region of the galaxy is approximately 150,000 light years across and about 75,000 light years thick at its very center, in the center of the Milky Way, containing what is believed to be a giant black hole, which holds, in other words, it's so powerful that it keeps all of these star systems with all of their planets. It's so powerful, it keeps it rotating. It's all electromagnetics up there, by the way. Everything is electromagnetic. So one can only imagine the rich potential of 1 trillion stars playing host to a myriad number of similar solar systems to Earth, each one capable of supporting life-bearing planetary systems, moons, and satellites. Furthermore, these same astronomers cipher that there may be as many as 100 million additional galaxies within the universe.
I believe it.
With the spiral Andromeda galaxy being our closest galactic neighbor in space. It's only a mere 780 kiloparsecs, or 2.5 million light years away. 2.5 million light years away. And as you know, light travels at... Boom. One quick added thought. An Andromeda Milky Way cosmic galaxy collision has been predicted to occur in about 4 billion years between the two largest galaxies in what's known as the local group that we're in. But I wouldn't worry about that just now. Let's hope we get through the planetX Wormwood brown dwarf star dilemma, which is now currently playing itself out across the solar system, and until that certain date, Sunday, September 18, 2016, rolls into play. Once again, we'll cover that planetary mystery later in this journal under planetX. So that's just a little excerpt from the book.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing. And 978 area code, you're on Late Night in the Midlands. First name, where you're calling from.
How you doing, Michael? This is James.
Hey, James. Welcome aboard.
Is it the James?
Yeah, this is me, Dr. Rand. How you doing?
The famous James?
Yeah, the one that called you before, yes. And
how are you? How are you?
I actually tried to call you. Did you change your number?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, well, I tried to call you to get you to come to this speak at this Berkeley conference, and it just happens to be September 15th through the 18th over there in Berkeley. I sent you an email, too, and you never replied to my email.
I never got it. I would always respond to you, James, always.
Yeah, I knew you would. I just, I don't know what happened. Probably my buddies, they always blocking my emails that go out, so I don't know.
You still have that information You still have that information on that?
And just you still have my number. If you want to give me a call or text me your number, or just give me I
tell you what,
number,
listen,
and I'll give it to my buddy, and he can call you and try to work you in if you are interested.
Sure. I don't want to do that on the air. If you'll call back to Michael, Michael can give it to me, and then I'll exchange my new number that way with you when I get you.
Okay, I'll get it in the PM chat with Michael.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
Great.
Perfect. It's good to hear from you. What's your question, buddy?
Actually, I just wanted to tell you that my guru, it tells me that his Tibetan contacts tell him that there is going to be a massive spike in consciousness coming up in September or early October, and that kind of coincides with your mass landings.
I hope that is so true, because that would be the crowning point of it if it actually affected the consciousness of the planet. Certainly stop everybody in there. My hope is it'll stop everybody in their tracks. Everybody has to say, whoa, wait a minute here. Whoa, 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 whoa. If that's true, we're either in big trouble or we're home safe. Okay?
Yeah, well, he said it was much bigger than the one that happened on 9/11. So it could be bad, so who knows. But
well, I like
to
to be positive, James. To me, staying positive is much easier, takes less energy, and has much better objectives than being negative about stuff. Now, not to say something might could or not happen. I've been predicting this fear that I have, that there's going to be a series of major earthquakes just before the election. And not necessarily here, but somewhere in the world. However, if there is one here of any serious nature, I think the earthquakes are going to begin happening around the middle of September going into October. That there's going to be an uptick in global earthquakes. It's coinciding with this whole thing with the UFOs and ETs landing in Mexico on the 18th.
Have you ever heard of that the ET, some ET species is here, and I guess the blue avians or something, they supposedly put these boxes on the fault lines that were vibrating. Have you ever heard of that, to keep the faults from going off?
I did hear some chatter about that. I don't have any facts on it. I do know that my initial contact with the ETs that rescued me out on that lake when I was like 11, they call themselves Fourth Racers. They're from planet Epsilon Prime, which is the 5th planet in the Arcturus star system. It's long and involved. I'm thinking that they may also be a part of this landing thing. Why? Because I'm getting information, and my information comes from them. They haven't said that they are, but that I should be expecting possible visit. So I'm just very calm about it, and I'm like you. I'm just waiting the days out, watching this whole crazy thing in the world. Everything is. I'm kind of worried. Everything is kind of coming apart at the seams.
Speaking of that, are you familiar with the Mandela effect?
Yes. Peter and I talk about it a lot on our show.
What do you think that is? You think it's just timelines converging, and they're actually hiding it too? I actually searched for it a couple weeks ago, and 18 million results in like 0.41 seconds. And when I checked this week, it was down to 389,000. And then I checked an hour again, and it was 489,000. So they're playing with the numbers, and obviously they're hiding a lot of stuff right now about the Mandela effect, because it's everybody.
Let's put it this way: there is so much mystery and intrigue out there, and so many unknowns, and so many threatening aspects of what humanity is doing to each other. I mean, our racial strife here is just, that's just one issue. There's strife all across the planet, and it's only been getting worse and worse. See, we only really hear about it, what's happening here, which is okay because it directly involves each one of us that lives in this country. But the point is, James, that there are multiple realities upon multiple realities. You realize that each human being is their own little universe, whirling and twirling through space. You're in charge of your own mind, your own body, your own will, your own thoughts, your own actions, your own emotions. You as an individual are responsible for every single thing you even think about, much less what you slash out and do, okay? And I'm not going to be lecturing on violence. I'm simply saying that every single human being is responsible for themselves, what they think, caring for themselves. And then you got the family, and then the father and the mother, family structure, and on and on and on and on and on. Now, most of us function normally. Most of us act like, the normally frustrated human being, but we get through life. We're trying to make the best of things. We have a fairly good belief in God. And by the way, let me comment on that. If there really truly is no God, God help us.
Yeah, something
because
like that.
I'm afraid to think that there is absolute lawlessness in the universe. I would be a little worried about that. Okay, back on target. I'd like to shift into the political thing, if it's okay with everybody. James, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you sure did. I just want to mention one other thing that I'm having trouble sleeping, and I actually sometimes I throw up like a mouthful of just enough to get the taste in my mouth. And I've been hearing that a lot of people are having these hard time, and some people waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff, and they're telling me there's these frequencies that they're hitting us. Do you know anything about those frequencies?
It's just one of another 100 things that come at me. Each human being is its own circuitry board. You know what a circuitry board is?
Yeah.
Mind, the body.
Well, like when you have a TV, it's got a circuitry board in it, right? A telephone has a circuitry board. Your phone has a circuitry board, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's what organizes it and powers it and makes it work, right? If something goes wrong in some part of the circuitry board, then whatever object it serves malfunctions. Let's say it's a watch. And if one of the little spindles breaks and the watch stops ticking properly, then your watch stops working. Well, it's the same thing with human beings and the human mind. Because not only is the body itself extremely complex, but the consciousness that serves the body, the mind, the soul, that's another whole bundle of snakes. Because then you've got, humanity being tempted by just being human. There's, the gluttony part and the sex part and the pride part and all that stuff. Then you've got the physical illness part. You see, there's a lot of factors that govern what could be happening to you. Now, are you eating properly?
Oh yeah, I haven't changed nothing, and I actually had ended up with a case of the hives out of the blue that I have no idea where I got them, and people tell me it's from the chemtrails because it started when they changed to the winter mix in January. That's when I started getting itchy, and then I broke out with the hives in February, and it really freaked me out. Just a total imbalance for the last few months.
You should move from there.
It's just a little complicated right now. I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is you try to get away from the problem, not stay with her.
Yeah, I do. I'm thinking of going to Sacramento next month, and I'm going to the first week in September.
Okay.
So yeah, I am definitely thinking of getting up. Going to Portland, Maine, and so I'm trying to get away, but I can't.
Here's what I would recommend. Look at your diet. Just be sure you're not overdoing or underdoing something. Don't put any chemicals into your body. And I'd start keeping a log, a little journal. Just go to Office Depot and buy yourself, one of those little steno pads. And you start writing this stuff down, and then give me a call in like 30 days and see if this thing is escalating or not. But you got to note, this happened at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Friday on the 1st. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, make a log for me, and then we'll talk about it. How's that sound?
Right. Okay.
That's my best answer to you. I'd be happy to discuss it with you, but I got to have something to look at, something to analyze, something to profile against.
Right. I may get a blood test from Dr. Delgado when I go to Berkeley in September if he's there too.
Sure,
So
sure. No, nothing wrong with that. Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
You might just have some crazy foreign substance in you that you're not aware of. That's all. Okay.
Right.
All right. I
know I got one of those substances in me called an implant.
All right. I want to go political. I want to go political, and I want to pivot now.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for the call, James. And
thanks, James.
I sent
thanks, buddy.
I sent you the number, James, by private message. So hopefully you got it. All right.
Good.
So
look.
Yep.
Look, Mr. Vara. We got to come to grips with something here that you've been talking about for at least the 8 years on the air. Okay. I think that revolution that you've been thinking about or hinting at or hoping for or looking at, I think there's going to be a huge upheaval.
Oh, it's happening.
Quietly done in this country, and I think that the election is going to be huge in Trump's favor.
I think
He's
so,
got a lot
too.
of baggage. Listen, a lot of baggage, a lot of tantrums, a lot of this and a lot of that. But, and I'm going to go politically public. God help us if the other side gets in. I'm not even going to use any names.
Yeah, well, my name is Hideous Rotten Clinton. That's what I call her. But I'll be the bad guy.
Well, all right. You're not being nice. All right. All right. Look, I'm going to use an analogy here. Let's dive into this. Have you ever had the pleasure, usually late afternoon or early evening, or walking down a beach and you see the waves rolling in and out? When the wave rolls in, you see these little things that look like little sand crabs. They scurry down into the sand, and the wave comes in. And then when the waves go out, they come scurry up, and they go after whatever food particles that the wave is carrying with it. Okay. I'll bet you that there are 100 million of them along the Gulf Coast. Okay. Now, that's an analogy. Okay. Imagine if the people that I'm referring to kind of act like these little sand crabs. They only come up when there's something that they really need to deal with, right? And then they immediately go back down. I think that this silent majority out there is probably 5 to 10 million people strong. It's just my own theory, but I'm putting all the pieces together, and I've been looking at this, and just like I do the earthquakes and and the storms and everything. It's all numbers, okay?
Yeah.
They don't want to declare. Some of them don't even call themselves independents. They're not even registered anywhere. They just don't really give it two hoots about politics. I think this time, this whole thing is off the rails.
And Dr. Wren,
and they're going to come out like these little crabs, Mike, and they're going to pull the lever or push the button or write it in, and they will disappear just like they had never been there. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, I mean, I have colleagues who, Trump's this, that. They try to find any little thing they can against it. It's like they don't want a solution. And me, I look at this is what I have been waiting for my whole life, is somebody with my attitude to go for the presidency. And, okay,
right.
maybe he's... not everything you'd want, but you know what? You look at his family, you look at all those things, and I see a man that does something for the people he loves, and I'm going to take him at his word that he's going to do what he says he's going to do, or at least try to. And if not, well, then we deal with it. But, it's...
Well, here's starting with this vice presidential pick. By the way, it might not be the four people that he's been playing with. It may be... He's prone to surprises, and he loves it when he gets the drop on everybody. Now, it'll probably be Christie.
Oh God, I hope not.
Oh, don't underestimate Christie, Michael. Don't underestimate him.
I don't.
He's a
like
little warrior, and he'll be just fine. He'll be just fine.
I honestly don't think. I think it's going to be Gingrich myself, but if not him, he might surprise everyone and call his daughter to be vice president. I mean, you never know. You're right. You don't know.
But that wouldn't fly.
It probably wouldn't. But you'd be surprised in this day of age what flies. And
well,
what
here's what I think we're looking at. I think we're going to look at a very entertaining set of debates, and there probably won't be more than two. I think that they'll limit it to 2 at most, maybe 3, but I doubt it. I really doubt it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see what happens. It's not going to be pleasant, but I'll tell you what I think Trump is going to do. I think he's going to suddenly go exactly opposite. I think what everybody thinks. I think he's going to go for the high ground, and I think it's going to be very classy and very elegant because he doesn't have to prove his money to anybody, and he's not beholden to anybody. So he can really name who he wants, when he wants, and how he wants. And if he's smart, if he really wants to kill everybody dead at the convention, he should have his cabinet already on a sheet or on a teleprompter, and he should get up there and say, and by the way, these are the people that are going to be with me on my journey. And he should name his entire cabinet.
Yeah.
That's never been done before. Never in the history of a convention. Never been done before.
Well, yeah, and you see what a shock it's been to the system. I mean, the mainstream media's tried to predict. They said in the beginning, they told us, oh, he's a joke. He's not going to go anywhere. And they do this because that's where they want your mind to be. And
but wait a minute, why are you still lamenting the ills of the press? To me, they're not even important anymore. And,
no,
and
they're not.
It's becoming apparent now that people are already hip to the rig.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But my point is how wrong they've been. That they, it's like this trance has been broken in a sense. And
that's so, Michael. Be generous. Be kind. Come on, that's my philosophy now.
Yeah.
All right, they screw up. Okay, just behave yourselves, guys, because there's a new sheriff in town.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I hope a lot happens. I hope that he gets in there and.
He's gonna.
Criminals are exposed.
Yeah, Hillary accused him of having an ego. He sure as hell does.
I like that.
And you know
part.
what?
Yeah.
That's one of the things people love about him.
Well, yeah, he's very confident.
See, nobody understands him. I understand him perfectly. I understand him as perfectly. He has certain mannerisms that he does at certain moments. He's a puppet master. He's a ringmaster. And nobody's figured it out. He's got the best circus tent show in the country right now. The best. And everybody's trying to peek up under his tent to find out how he's doing it. And I don't mean that nasty. Come on, folks. Stay above board here with me. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, and this is probably going to go down. This has to go down as the greatest political campaign of all time. I mean, there's just I mean, look at people who've took an interest that would never do otherwise. So
imagine how many new books are going to be written about this one.
Oh, I know it. There's going to be too many of them. But
by the way, that Dinesh D'Souza, the guy that did 2012 or whatever it was,
yeah,
or 2016. Excuse me, my allergies.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the summertime.
That's another
blues.
thing. I look out on a soybean field, and I must be allergic because it started growing about 3 weeks ago. Oh boy, I'm suffering. Excuse me. Anyway, this Dinesh D'Souza is a filmmaker, and he's teamed up with a producer who did Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. The producer that put that movie, even though Spielberg directed. So anyway, apparently they have a kick butt, up your nose, in your face, bust your jaw, tear your teeth out, I'll rip your fingernails out, and I'll kick your shins movie against Hillary. Oh God, I said it. I'm sorry, everybody. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Her Highness, the Secretary. Okay?
Yeah.
Apparently, this movie is going to take her and Bill completely apart, and it's going to the theaters.
Good.
It's not going to be on some conservative, TV station. Well, it will be, but what I'm saying is, it's destined for the big screen. Now, if that has any impact on anything, it can only obviously frustrate the Secretary.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and I like what I'm seeing. This is what I mean. I mean, I've been waiting for this my entire radio career, especially. I mean, I've had to deal with Obama my entire career. It's finally something good. Maybe I could talk more about ETs and ghosts and not worry so much about what they're out to do to us. But listen, Dr. Rand, before we get done here tonight, you mentioned when we were talking about the solar system, you said it's almost like it was built. So I would have to ask, built by who?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah.
Who or what? Who or what organized, planned, executed, and supplied the whole thing? And if you assume that the Big Bang occurred only 15 billion years ago, what was that all about? And how could there possibly be 100 billion other galaxies? I was trying to tell you about this fantastic graphic poster I have. It's big. It's probably 36 by 48, and I have it beautifully framed. It's in my bedroom. It shows what they believe is the construction of the galaxies. I mean of the universe comprised of all these galaxies, and just the distances of time and space are so mind-boggling that you cannot really conceive how wide our galaxy is. 150,000 light years across. In other words, there are stars filling this entire vista. If you traveled across it at the speed of light, it would take you 150,000 years to get from one end to the other.
Assuming there is ends.
Well, we're talking about the theoretical string that holds this galaxy together.
Oh, okay.
You see, and at its thickness, it's 75,000 light years thick, with trillions and trillions of stars in it. Now, who designed that? And how could that have come in just a couple of billion years? See, something's really, really structurally wrong with their whole concept of where did it all come from. And they're assuming that one big bang created all of this?
Yeah, the Taliban must have been in charge.
Yeah. You see, it's really hard to go against orthodoxy in any science. Look what happened to poor Galileo. They almost hung him a couple times.
Oh, I believe it.
Well,
They'd hang us if they could.
Poor Copernicus. He had his troubles, too. Just don't forget the Vatican was in charge of everything.
Well, listen,
right?
Dr. Rand, we're down to just a few minutes.
Are we?
Yes.
Where did that time go?
Oh, it's flown, I know. We got to do this again.
All right.
Yeah, we'll have to do, maybe in a couple weeks we'll get you back on. We can continue the conversation. But what would you like to?
How do you want to close? You want to close?
Well, I'd like to give you the floor to get out what you'd like, and I want to just thank you very much.
Let me. Okay, how many minutes? 5 minutes? 3 minutes? 2 minutes?
You got about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Look, everybody. The fate of the nation hangs in the balance on what you do the first week of November. If you wanted to live the way you've been living, under the conditions, aspirations, and failed promises, and illicit behavior of the past, then don't vote for the Trumpster. Don't. Because that whole paradigm is going to come crashing down. Now, if you want to take a chance and be hopeful and figure out, well, one's got to be better than the other, believe me, the other is the Trumpster. Flaws and all. But I think he's going to put together a absolutely stellar team. The word is out that he's going to pick the original 16 candidates. Every one of them is going to have a specific job if they wish to have it. And I think that also includes grouchy John Kasich. Boy, am I disappointed in him, but that's neither here nor there.
Barney Rubble. Yeah.
Everybody think about their future immediately and in the real deep future. Because what we do as a nation this November is going to forever save or destroy, I truly believe, We're slowly being strangled and destroyed. And it's coming, just like they said, it's coming from within. It's not coming from without. Well, yes, there's a lot of tension out there, but what's really killing us is what's strangling us as a nation between ourselves and our government.
That's
so everybody, just think about the consequences of your motives and what you do at the box, but definitely vote no matter which way you go. And all you independents, get your thinking caps on, and all you little ants down there in the sand, I think there's like 5 to 10 million of you. Please come out of your holes, go vote, and just go on back, and nobody has to even know that you cast a ballot. And on that note, Michael, thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Well, Dr. Rand, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best with your allergies and your move, and I look forward to talking to you again.
I just got to take some Benadryl, but then I go to sleep, so I'll take the Benadryl now that we're off the air.
All right. Sounds good. Well, listen, have a great night, Dr. Rand. Thank you again.
Good night, everybody, and thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks, there he goes, the great Dr. Rand.
Thank you for listening to the first hour of Late Night in the Midlands. To finish listening to this episode, go to lnmradionetwork.com and become a subscriber. Becoming a subscriber is easy. There is a link on every page to take you to the subscription page. The cost is low, and you would be supporting Late Night in the Midlands and all of our efforts to bring you the truth. Again, go to lnmradionetwork.com, click on the subscribe button, and you can finish listening to this episode, as well as all of the other shows that are in our archives.